The time to build is upon us.
With great power comes great responsibility.
You know the greatest danger facing us is ourselves, an irrational fear of the unknown.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
This is the SuperHuman Academy podcast.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I'm going to quickly just introduce myself in case you don't know me. I'll introduce Jonathan in case you don't know him. My name is Collin Jewett. I am the current CEO of SuperHuman Academy. Definitely did not start out that way. Not so long ago, I was a failing engineering student at Purdue University. But with Jonathan's help, along with other mentors and a special set of learning skills, I quickly landed a senior level position, engineering. I did that for a while, switched over, jump ship, joined the SuperHuman team, became a coach. I've been doing that for the past several years, along with starting a couple other ventures. And yeah, so here we are. That's my very, very brief intro. Jonathan, I'm guessing most of you know who he is. He is an author. He's a speaker. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's a father of two, and I don't know, maybe more in the future.
Can you count? You can count the white hairs.
Yeah. Loving husband, and as I'm sure you guys all know, he's the founder of SuperHuman Academy. So I thought it'd be really cool to bring him on today, have a little chat, let you guys sit in. I'd love to, meet people from the community as well. And I just wanted to ask Jonathan some questions that I have. And then let you guys do the same. And I'm happy to answer questions too, but I'll be around a lot more, so you can talk to me in the future if you want. So Jonathan, the first question I wanted to ask, to give people a little background, kind of set the stage, is how SuperHuman Academy came to exist in the first place, and why? Why did you found it? Why did you think it was?
Yeah, it's an interesting story of kind of just an accidental thing, and when something is right, it just kind of what is the Paulo Coelho quote? All the universe unfolds before you. So I got into accelerated learning, as everyone I think knows, because I had a need and I needed to improve my learning before an advanced degree. And after that advanced degree, I tried to do a startup and that didn't go anywhere. And then I thought to myself, I had taken one online course before, and I thought this is a really interesting business model of just, recording your content once and then being able to reach so many people, impact so many people. And I thought this would be a really cool side business to start while I figured out the next big startup idea. And so I super learned everything I could about online courses and then just made my first online course. Again, I'd only ever taken one online course, but I decided to produce one. So the second online course I'd ever taken was my own, I guess you could say. And the course took off. I had managed to learn really, really well what it is that makes courses succeed, I think. And the course took off, and it took me a while, but eventually over the course of, I think it took 14 months, I realized I should probably make another course. And then another course became another course, and then that became a podcast, and then that became a book. And it kind of just, I never intended this for this to be my main kind of day job, because really what I love doing is learning, right? And just like trying new things and starting things. But at some point I kind of got sucked in because, the impact was massive, and the business kept growing, and every day we're reaching literally hundreds of thousands of people. And it was wild, and it was really fun. And that's how it got started, is almost completely by accident. Yeah.
Awesome. And I know that, well, I know this. I don't think a lot of people on here know this, but what are you doing now?
Lot. So I have another business called Coffee, which is a sales team as a service company. We're in the process of maybe that business being acquired as well. For those who don't know, I don't think this is a big secret in any sense. SuperHuman Academy was acquired in September of 2022 by Miracy, who's a really big, probably one of the biggest companies in the space. They own way more brands than people realize of other online courses, specifically in business and personal development. So they acquired SuperHuman Academy so that I could focus on my main job, which is being a dad now to two. And boy, let me tell you, having two, I'm really glad that I got that off my plate a few months before Eli, who's my second, came, because it doesn't get easier the older you get, this whole newborn thing, and then it doesn't get easier the more of them you have. So I'm a dad, and I started something new recently, which again, I have this habit of doing, where it was a passion project. I just thought it would be really fun. I wanted to get back into creation, because what I loved about SuperHuman Academy, the part of the business that I enjoyed more than anything, certainly more than the like scaling and managing and meetings, I like the creation. I like to learn something and then I create content and teach others and share. So I started a side project, which is a 3D printing YouTube channel. And I have this, again, this habit of when I am passionate about something, I just want to learn about it and learn about it. So I became, over the last 6 months, really a student of like, what is YouTube? And it seems so trite. People think of like YouTubers and TikTokers, but it's a gold rush. It's a revolution, way bigger than Udemy was when I got started. And I got started right at the right time with Udemy. YouTube, there are 2 billion people a day and growing on YouTube every single day. So I wanted to study this medium and understand like, what's the future and what's the potential. And people don't realize how much potential there is, not just for money making, but for impact, right? If I was blown away by the fact that we could reach 350,000 people on Udemy, 2.5 billion people use YouTube every day. And there's way more registered, obviously, Google users. So I became a student of the medium, and the channel's grown really, really fast and sucked me in. And it's become already way bigger than I thought it was going to. And I just kind of want to do that. And I want to focus on that. So first job is be a dad. This is becoming a long-winded answer. But second job is I just want to create things all day. And what I love about YouTube that I think was hard for me at SuperHuman, and Brandon, who formerly was our head of marketing before he went off to do his own thing, would tell you this: I love to create. I want to create the courses. And as soon as I create the course, I'd be like, okay, next course. And they're like, whoa. Webinar for the course, emails for the course, like go on podcasts, for like market the stuff you created and let's like fit it in. And I'm like, but I want to go make new stuff. I just want to go create. So what I love about YouTube as a medium, for anyone out there who's curious, is like, okay, you publish a video on Tuesday and then it's like, all right, cool, refresh, reset. That video is done. It's out. There's no like, yeah, you can email it. You can maybe turn it into a blog post, but there's no like, it's like, okay, the algorithm wants new stuff this week. So the algorithm is a demanding mistress. And that's why so many creators burn out. But it's also, if all you want to do is create, which is where I'm at in my life right now, I just want to create. I don't want to market. I don't want to manage. I just want to create and be in my creation. Then it's awesome. It's really, really fun. So that's what I'm doing. Long-winded answer.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I think I'm kind of chuckling over here because every time we talk, I think this is kind of a feature of being a super learner. You're really into something.
Yes.
And your enthusiasm is contagious. It really comes through.
And it changes every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something that I think I learned from you because, growing up, I had definitely heard kind of the paradigm a lot of like, get really good at something, become irreplaceable, and just focus on that. Like specialize. That's how you succeed. Right. And, that was the model I kind of had in my head. I'm going to get really, really good at something. I'll get paid well. I'll just do that my whole life, whatever. Yeah. And when I met you, it was like, okay, you're really good at what you do. And so it's like, okay, model holds up. But then it's like, wait a minute. He's doing something different now. Wait, what is he doing now? Every 3 months, it was like,
every 3 months,
really into something different. And I think it freed me up. It was kind of liberating to realize like, I don't have to just like commit to one thing to be interested in my whole life. Like it's great to jump around.
That's super flattering. And that is one of the things that I used to beat myself up about or over. And then I realized like, actually it's an advantage. And it took years to get to that point. Like I used to, before super learning and before I considered myself or anyone considered me like a thought leader. And I mean that in the sense of not the buzzword that we use, like someone who is leading in thought and other people care what he has to say about it in learning. I used to beat myself up about it. And then I was like, you know what? If I start from first principles and look like, when I was 13, I wanted to be a programmer. So I learned some of this. And then I wanted to do this. So I learned some of this. And then I learned video editing. And it's like, if I look back and I look at what makes me successful in any stretch of, what you mean that as a husband, as a father, as a business person, as a creator, as a hobbyist 3D printer, it is actually the intersection between those skills, right? I can learn, and eventually I wove that into the super learning method. As we redid the course the second time, I wove it in, and it's like, that's not a bug, that's a feature, because the way that, yeah, okay, cool, I got really obsessed with piano for 6 months, and then I moved on to something else, and then I came back to piano. But now when I pick up a harmonica, which I did, that's another one of my interests, I picked up a harmonica. It's like, oh, I understand music theory way better than I did when all I could play was the guitar, because the piano is the perfect instrument for learning music theory. Or, I'm learning now parametric modeling, which you're an engineer, like how life-changing it is to be able to actually draw up engineering grade CAD sketches that you can change on the fly. I just designed something like an hour before this call. And I'm learning that. And, all the stuff that I was doing with video editing and understanding workflows and understanding organizing files, and like, it's all comes into play. And so I kind of came to the point where I realized, like, there's no wasted learning. There's no such thing as wasted learning. I used to be the kind of person who would hear like I knew someone in college who was studying Yiddish, which is it's a dead language or dying language, or, you meet people who study Latin. And I used to be like, how do they justify wasting the time and effort? And now I realize there is no such thing, because Yiddish, you will learn a ton of Hebrew and a ton of German. Latin, you will better understand 70% of the languages that you or I are likely to learn. You will better understand, including Germanic languages. So there's no wasted learning. It's all a move forward. It all gives you forward momentum, even if that forward momentum is just more skills and experience in learning. So I pride myself on it now. I will say one thing that I think is really cool that I've experienced is, if you pick your hobbies well, like I did a video about this last week on The Next Layer, which is the 3D printing channel. And I explained like that whole story, how I got really into acro yoga. Then I got bored with acro yoga. I got really, really into crochet. Then I got really bored with crochet. And it used to be really a bummer, not because I'm not excited to go on to the next thing, but it's like, that passion, that joy that I used to get out of the therapeutics of crocheting is gone for me now. Like, I can't pick up crochet needles. I'm so bored with it, because I reached a certain point where it's like, I'm far past the 20% that gives me the 80%. And it's like, to get to the next level. So for the example of acro yoga, like, I went to this whole 3-day, 5-day conference or whatever to see the next level. And the next level is where you literally throw people in the air and catch them. And I cracked a rib. And I made like the very conscientious decision of like, I know what the next level is. I could get there. I'm not interested in it. So it's like, that acro yoga died for me that day, because it's like, if I'm not learning and I'm just practicing and showing off the stuff that I can already do, it's completely not fun for me at all anymore. So I said all that to say this, which is, if you pick your hobbies right, so 3D printing, it's constantly changing. The technology is constantly changing, kind of like if you're a software programmer, right? If that's your hobby, like, you're never going to be bored, because technology is always moving forward. And there's so many different rabbit holes you can go down. You can go down modeling, you can go down polymer science, you can go down building your own 3D printers, you can go down teaching other people. So, if you choose, and that's why I think personal development kept me so busy for 7 years, is when I got bored of memory, well, let's go down this rabbit hole of meditation, then sleep, then, so.
Yeah, I think so I kind of was inspired by that, and I think it helped me to realize, like, when you get to that point where you're super interested in something, and then you get to that point that you described of where it becomes no longer interesting. I think a lot of people, including myself in the past, but a lot of people I've worked with since, they have this sort of weird guilt about it. Like, I've invested time into this, like, I can't just drop it and do something else. There's like that sunk cost fallacy that comes with it, and all this. I don't know. I don't know where all of that comes from. But what you said, I think, is right. It's like, well, there's a reason you're getting bored with it. It's because your brain subconsciously are recognizing that you've kind of hit the diminishing returns point. Bingo. You've gotten that 80% that you could get from that 20% of passionate investment.
Right.
And you've kind of hit a wall. And so you could keep pushing, but you're going to have smaller and smaller gains, or you could move on to the next thing that you're interested in. And I think,
Right.
yeah, something that's been really powerful for me is letting myself let things go and jump into the next thing. And that's the only reason, like,
Yep.
I tell people this, like, I have no background in finance, but I'm a investment advisor. I just decided one day, I was like, I kind of want to do this. And so I went out and became an investment advisor in the matter of like a couple of months, started my own firm, and
Awesome.
I have my own investment firm. Why? Because I wanted to, like less.
That's great.
And
Yeah. And
I don't
if
do
you
a whole
hadn't
lot
just
with it, but-
accepted and embraced that, you'd still be guilting yourself over the last interest. And why? It's a narrative that's broken. It's a narrative that comes from way, way long ago when specialists were the ones who excelled. But as you open this discussion, specialization is no longer the super skill, right? And diversification is the super skill. And also it's a quality of life thing, right? Like, do you want to slog into going deeper in something that you don't enjoy, even if it does make you more successful in that thing? Or do you want to, hey, I woke up this morning, wanted to be an investment advisor, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I think that's where a lot of joy comes back into learning, when you realize when you start something, that doesn't mean you're just stuck doing that forever. It's like,
Right.
wow,
And
okay,
lose the guilt.
I can just enjoy this ride, and then I can jump on the next thing, and I don't have
Totally.
to slog through it. So anyway, I want to move past that. There's a question I asked you on our very first conversation, first time we ever talked, and like face to face on camera anyway. I jumped right into the question of like, what is your life purpose? And I asked you that, and at the time you told me to be happy, and I didn't dig into that too much, but it's been a while. You've had 2 kids since then, you've gotten married, a lot in your life has changed. I'm just curious if your answer to that question, or how you would explain it, has changed since then.
It's funny because I didn't remember having answered that, but that's the first thing that came to mind to me now, is my purpose in life is to be happy. And I will, because I'm now a father, I will classify that statement, and I will say, I'll tell a story. When I was in high school, my quote in the yearbook, everyone did a quote. And my quote was, I think it's not Aristotle. I'm blanking on the name, but whoever discovered leverage, the principle of leverage, hit us in the comments, because I normally know the name. You'd think I'd know because I tell this story a lot. Very under-rested. The quote goes, "Give me but a firm enough place to stand and a long enough lever, and I'll move the earth." I thought that was a wonderful metaphor. And when I was a young person, young adult, I thought that the important part of that metaphor, or that idea, was the lever, right? He discovered the principle of leverage. And the lever for me meant, more skills, more knowledge, more acquisition of, tools that would give me more strength to move the earth. And as I get older, I've come to realize, thank you, Archimedes. Appreciate that. Yeah, Archimedes, definitely not Aristotle. As I get older, I've realized that doesn't matter if you have a very, very strong lever, but not firm ground to stand on, that lever will just smash you into the ground. Whether that's, your work ethic or all the skills, you will work yourself to death. And I realized that that's particularly also true with parenting. A firm enough ground to stand on means that I'm happy and I'm healthy and I'm well adjusted and I'm well rested, because that is when I am doing the other things that I'm put on this earth to do, like raise my kids, like impact the world, like help other people. So my primary purpose is to be happy. And my definition of happy is happy, healthy, well-adjusted, with people that I love, happy in the broader sense. Because that's how I accomplish all my side missions, or all my kind of secondary missions, is just to be happy, and healthy. And that's also a great way to not answer the question, right? Because I think, as we just discussed, my mission changes, right, from time to time. And right now my mission is just to share my excitement and enthusiasm about a technology that I think is really cool, and And there's a lot more too than people realize. Like 3D printing is about a lot more than just designing and printing cool stuff in your house. It's about changing the way manufacturing works. It's about democratizing creativity. It's about empowering people to understand that they can literally design the world around them. It's about creating the next generation of engineers, which we know there aren't enough people going into engineering. So there's a lot there, and there's a bigger mission there. But right now, the mission is just sharing and spreading that enthusiasm and passion, which I think has been an undertone or an undercurrent in everything that I do.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think the word happy suffers from kind of semantic overload at this point, where it means so much that it means nothing, you know. But I think that for me, being able to watch you over the past several years, I've been able to kind of figure out at least get a better understanding of what you mean, because somebody who wants to be just like have a thrill or just a, you know, euphoric moment or experience doesn't have kids on purpose. Right?
True.
Because having kids means you're probably gonna have the highest highs in your life, but you're also gonna have the lowest lows. So like right before this call, you texted me because I was like, hey, can you jump on a few minutes earlier? Like, I've got 2 screaming kids. It's a nightmare situation, right? It's like you have that a lot, and there's lots of stuff. And so,
and also it's interesting, like talking about learning, and I haven't had time to reflect on this because it's been a real wonderful, like intense, beautiful 2.5 years, right, since I became a father. But in terms of learning experiences, like self-learning, getting to know yourself, having kids, it's pretty high up there. It's like almost as high up there as like deep work in therapy or psychedelics, because you will learn things about yourself that you did not know. I don't know if you've had this experience yet. I know you're not at the verbal stage yet in your parenting, but it is fascinating to see in practice how you see the world as expressed through your behavior when introducing the world to another human being. It's a weird thing, man. It's a weird and beautiful and wonderful part of the experience.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm only 6 months, almost 7 months in at this point, but yeah, it's crazy to see him change every single day. Well, I want to go back to that. I really liked what you said about the lever and the firm place to stand. And that kind of leads me into the next question about the role and importance of community and mentorship in your life and your experience, because I feel like that's a lot has to do with having a firm place to stand, is having good community. So can you say anything about that?
Yeah, I can say something about everything, man. This was one of the big realizations about 3-4 years ago that we realized was missing in SuperLearner. Is like online courses are really, really great. And this is around the time where we brought Brandon in to try and create this sense, because I realized we're social creatures, and as much as I'm an autodidactic learner and I can learn by myself in a silo, you need accountability in order to do that. So when I am successful in learning by myself in a silo, it's because I want to create something and produce, and I'm accountable to the people who are going to consume whatever it is I've created, whether it's a course or a blog post or whatever. And I came to realize through my own learning experiences, right, and dropping things because I wasn't challenged enough, as we talked about before, that if you don't have that sense of accountability, right, like you can be the most autodidactic learner in the world. I 9 times out of 10 prefer to learn the material by myself, right? Sometimes I'll hire a tutor as part of my learning process, but when it comes down to actually sitting and learning, I just want to put on headphones and I want to read the material or try or study or watch the YouTube videos. I just want to zone in. But the accountability piece, right, the community piece is about sharing the successes. It's about someone actually being beholden to someone. And that's the part that was missing. And that's when we started introducing things like study groups, breakouts, things like that, because we realized the community isn't for the benefit. There is benefit to, someone else asks a question and you read the answer to their question, and you benefit from that. There's validity to that for some people's learning style. But the main thing that community offers is that sense of accountability.
Yeah, I want to throw something else out that I've learned over the past few years, because I'm the same way. Like if I want to learn something, I can definitely, it's easy for me to just sit down and dive in and immerse myself. And part of that's because I pursue things that I'm really interested in. Like we talked about before, I don't try to force myself to learn things I don't care about most of the time. But something that I've learned is that if you learn in a vacuum, a lot of times you become disconnected from reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can get really into something, but if it's almost like if you learned all the lore of like Lord of the Rings or something like that, super interesting. You could dig into it for your whole life because it's so deep in a while.
Right.
But it's also it's separated from reality in a sense. Like you could do that, but
yeah,
like
I have a very real world example for you, which is
go ahead.
Chat GPT. It's all anyone wants to talk about right now.
Yeah, sure. AI, yeah.
Play around with it. The way that it learned was they downloaded the entire internet, I think in 2021, and then just said, go learn. But talk to it about extrapolating that knowledge forward, right? Or, I mean, first off, a lot of the knowledge, especially around code, is just outdated, right? They've changed the protocols, they've changed the syntax. It's wrong, which is fine. They can update that. But talk to it about like trends and extrapolating forward. It's incredibly intelligent, but because it's locked in this silo of training data and not able to interact with ongoing sources of data, updates, if you will, it's limited, which is probably good for us, but it's just interesting. You definitely feel there's this tool with unlimited potential, and yet you are able to hit the frontier of its knowledge. You're able to reach the edge where it goes, yeah, I don't know anything about that because that didn't exist in 2021.
Yeah, because what community does it's not just that it gives you accountability, it gives you feedback, like live feedback, so your knowledge doesn't become stale, it doesn't become distinct from reality. It's connected to something real, right? It has real utility, and it's alive, and you get different perspectives. Our mutual friend Brandon, who you mentioned before, really likes the quote, like, you can't read the label from inside the jar. He says that all the time, which is that when you're inside the jar, you lack that third party perspective. And when you lack that, there's a huge limitation to your learning. And so something that I want to bring even more to SuperHuman Academy, so for you watching this is going to be something that I'm really focused on, is that community aspect. Like, you need to be talking to other people, you need to be hearing other people's perspectives, you need to get that outside, because a lot of times, when I've worked with people in coaching, they've watched an instructional video, so they've got like the information, but they've got it through their own lens, and they interpret it a certain way, and they get stuck super fast. Like, if you're watching this, like, one of the things people get stuck on with super learning is chunking, which I always find really funny. Yeah, because it's not really meant to be something to get stuck on, but so many people get stuck on, like, how do I do this better? And it's because they've kind of got their own perspective, but as soon as you talk to a coach, like, you get that outside perspective, and all of a sudden the roadblock disappears completely, and like it was never there. But if you just learn totally by yourself, you can hit a lot of roadblocks that they're almost illusory. They shouldn't even be there. It's like a glass wall or imaginary. But I want to make sure we get to other people's questions. So I've got one more question I wanted to ask. And that is, so for people who feel stuck or restless or lost or confused, they just feel like they're at a point in their life where they're not moving forward, or they're not moving in a direction that they want to go, what would you say are the key critical questions that they should be asking that could maybe unlock things and help them to move forward?
Yeah. So I developed a tool for this. That's an interesting way to ask this question, because usually people would say, what should they be doing? And I have the answer for that all spooled up. But I like the way you asked I like the way you asked it. It's a different way to think about it. Like, what are the questions they should be asking themselves? And coincidentally, I developed a tool for this in my own life. And it's part of the reason ultimately that I ended up letting SuperHuman Academy go into other more capable hands than mine. And I call it the must and must not, or the criteria list. So again, as with all things, I have a story to explain. If I were to ask you, Collin, or someone maybe who's less of an engineer than you, but I were to ask the average person, like, design your dream house, right? And the dream house is a metaphor for you're exactly where you want to be in life, your dream life. That's really hard. I'm not an architect. I couldn't sit down and sketch what I wanted. But if I sat them down and I said, Collin, your dream house, does it have hard lines or soft lines, like organic shapes or hard shapes? And you know the answer, right? And then I'd say colorful or gray tones, and you know the answer. Modern or traditional style. Do you like glass more or wood? Do you like concrete more, or do you like stucco? And slowly you get to the ultimate answer. I ask you enough of these specific this or this questions, right? And so the same I found is 100% true with designing the exact life that you want. And I'm something of an aficionado of lifestyle design. So I ask you, Collin, do you want to create things or do you want to manage people? You know the answer to that. Do you want to work online or in an office? You know the answer to that. Do you want to, do you want to make a lot of money, or is impact more important than that? All these little yes, this or this, A or B questions. And those are the questions I would be asking, right? So do I want to live in this city or do I want to move? Do I want to keep learning, or do I want to apply my skills in the real world? I mean, that's a simple enough question. You may not know. My sister-in-law is going through this right now. Like, should I do a master's degree? Should I not? Do you want to keep studying, or do you want to get some work experience? You may not know what you want to study or what work experience. Answer that one question. In your gut, do you feel, she's also in this place right now of like, I don't know, maybe I want to move abroad, maybe I don't. Do you want to find an apartment here in this country, or do you want to try and find an apartment somewhere else? Just answer that. You don't have to know which city in the world. And so by getting to those, dumbing it down into these very, very simple questions, and asking yourself a lot of them, take a ruled piece of paper and fill it up with, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that?
Yeah. So the way I've thought through this before is, like, you can't say yes to something until you said no to other things, right? You can't say yes until you've said no. And I think that's essentially what you're pointing out. It's like, if the answer is everything, then that's not an answer, right? You have to pick some things. And in order to pick some things, you have to say no to a lot of other things. Like, there's huge opportunity cost every decision that you make.
And I like the idea of like just having the must or must not, right? So one of the things I decided, which is ironic because I'm now doing another podcast, but when Ari was born, my eldest, I decided I don't want to do anything that's going to keep me on Zoom after 5 p.m. I'm not going to be on Zoom after 5 p.m. And that one thing, right? That one must not meant whatever I do, I'm probably not co-founding more businesses with Americans or, Canadians or whatever. Like, I'm finding people to collaborate with who are in my time zone or forward. It meant a lot of different things, right? It meant that I stopped doing the podcast at episode 300. So all these different decisions that were like, this is what I feel that I want, right? And that could be for someone else, that could be, you know what, after COVID, I'm never going back to an office. You just narrowed down by 80%, Tim Ferriss talks about this and I love it. And I love it despite the fact that he talks about it, which is, what's one decision I can make that will make 1,000 decisions for me? So a few years ago, I decided that I was going to give up all color. I don't wear color. I only wear black, white, and gray. And it sounds like dreary. It sounds depressing to some people if you like wearing color. To me, it's the most liberating thing in the world. It's literally one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. it has simplified my life. It makes me so happy to look in my closet and just see grayscale. It makes me so happy that I can literally pack for a 2-week vacation with my eyes closed in the dark. Nothing I own doesn't fit in. Anyway, I could go on about why I love this decision, but the point is, it's one decision that's made over 1,000 decisions for me. It is known, definitely to people who listen to the podcast, because that's part of the reason why I gave up alcohol. I made one decision. I'm never going to drink again. There's at least 3 decisions a week that are made for me. And I'm always thinking about how can I make more of those decisions? One decision that will make all the decisions. And I think that, making those demands of what you want to do, right? Like, you know what? I don't care what it is. I want to be in the education industry. I don't know how yet, but I've now written off 95% of jobs, opportunities, things that I might do. Like that's what I want to do. It's okay to change it, by the way, but make that one decision that is going to make a lot of decisions for you. It's super liberating.
Yeah, and I think a key point there is the goal isn't to automate everything in your life. The goal is to automate everything that you don't care about, so you can focus on just the things you care about. Because so much of our mental energy is spent on things that don't really matter to us that much, but we just force ourselves to make decisions. Okay, I want to make sure that we get into our Q&A with everyone else. We already had one question come through.
Do you have the questions open from Facebook? I tried to open it, but it made background noise. I want to make sure we don't miss the Facebook ones.
Come through.
Do you have the questions? Oh, there it is.
There's the feedback. Yeah, if you could check there. Yeah, I was thinking just talk to people on the call, but the one question I already see is from Sunshine. Hi, Sunshine. Is there going to be another one of this? So I have a quick announcement that I want to make. Jonathan mentioned the podcast stopped at episode 300. This is episode 301. So we're restarting it, and we're gonna do it differently. We're gonna live stream the podcast episodes and let people join.
Very cool.
Have a little.
Ironically, I just launched the podcast yesterday called the Infill Podcast, which is exactly the same concept. I made the decision that if I wanted to, again, like make one decision that makes 100 decisions. Like I don't want to do the editing again of like taking out all the ums and ahs, and I don't want to do the researching the guest for 3 hours for a 45-minute episode. Like I just want to have cool conversations with cool people like we've done here, I think. And so live, really cool. That's an awesome. I'm excited to hear that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So doing it live and then letting other people join. So it's kind of like a live studio audience. You guys can be part of it. You can ask questions to our guests, and it'll be cool.
You need to get Ecamm Live and a Stream Deck. I'm going to send you some links right now.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that'll be in the Facebook group. So if you're in the Facebook group, you're in the right place. We'll keep doing this.
YouTube, stream it on YouTube. Or Twitch.
I'll figure it out.
We're gonna talk tech after. I've got a lot. I
already made one decision to make all my decisions. It's on Facebook.
Fair point. I'll convince you why it's a good idea to change that. But it's
all right, cool. Feel free. All right. So hey, if you are on the call right now, feel free to post a question in the chat. You can also come on mic if you want to. If you want to come on video, come on mic, talk to us. That'd be great. I see someone just posted, Travis.
Yeah, you should read it out so people listening to the audio can.
Travis posted something cool, but I don't think it's a question.
Okay.
So we'll leave it there. Yeah, not really a question.
Not really a question. Well, I'm going to read it anyway.
All right, go for it.
So this is from Travis. I just have to say that I was recently diagnosed with ADHD. Congratulations. A lot of what you're talking about as far as how you have super learned and switched interests really speaks to me. Me too, ADD diagnosed here. And what I've learned is called hyperfocus in ADHD terms. Just listening to the narrative about how you've switched your passions is helping me realize how that actually can be an asset completely. It makes me really want to dive back into SuperLearner program and actually complete it this time. I had a conversation with a SuperLearner coach recently that I might have to revisit. Thank you for just the open conversation. This is really cool. I'm so glad, Travis. It's nice to know there are other crazies out there like us. But I will say that super learning is the same as everything else, right? Like complete the course if it serves you, but it's also okay. Like my stuff is not special. It's not any better or worse than learning piano. Take what you need from it, right? And when we get to the point about competitive memory, if that doesn't interest you, skip it. Or if what you want out of it is the memory and learning, but speed reading doesn't speak to you because you don't like to learn from books, you like to learn from courses or workshops, leave it. Like if I could go back and redo some of the stuff, and I know, Collin, you're working on redoing a lot of this stuff, so I'm excited about that. I would drive that point home, is like, and it's not about, me wanting you to feel like your money was well spent in the course. It's about me knowing how many people have shamed themselves. Like, oh, I say I want to learn better, but then I can't even finish a course on how to learn better. As long as you get the essentials, right? You get the foundations, you get the ideas, you understand, and you get results. Don't finish the course if you don't want to. Finish it if you want to. It's there. But it's also not, especially the masterclass, is not designed to be a linear journey. It's an encyclopedia. Well, the first half is a book, a self-help book, right? The second half is an encyclopedia of skills, and that's okay. Don't read the encyclopedia. So I would just say, take it as much as it serves you. Review it, definitely review, go over, master the concepts that you do need, but don't beat yourself up if you don't finish any course. You know how many times I've restarted the Wim Hof method course? Because I always say I'm going to fix circulation. I'm going to get beyond holding my breath and cold. And there, you can actually get to the point where you can control circulation and no longer have cold hands and feet, which is why I was originally interested in the course. I've started the course like 6 times. I'm never going to get through it. I lose interest. Like I do my Wim Hof method breathing. I do cold exposure. I got value out of it. Big deal. It's all good. You know what? I moved on from that to awesome things like meditation. All good. All good.
Yeah, I think so much is just the freedom of not having to do things or finish things that you start. There's definitely value to finishing something. Oh
yeah,
but not everything.
There's some things you have to finish. Yeah, my wife is a lawyer by training, and she realized, like, even before she was done with the whole degree and process, and you have to obviously do an internship to actually get the stamp that you're officially registered as a lawyer. And that is one of those things that it's not all or nothing, because she knows the laws better than anyone would, but it's like, there are some things that if you just push through a little bit further for the rest of your life, you are a lawyer. There are so many benefits in society to being able to say, like, I am licensed to practice law. I am in the bar association, So it's like some things you got to push through, but my course is not one of those things, And
I think there are many fewer of those things.
Oh yeah,
people think
100%.
Like
they're only official things.
Yeah, only official things. Like I was just reading a biography and I stopped 3/4 of the way through because I lost interest, and I'm not going to read the rest of it, and I'm totally fine with that. All right. Well, we did have some other questions. One, I think it's from Anjan, if I'm pronouncing your name right. Sorry if I'm not. It's, how do you overcome this mental block, or rather a self-limiting belief that says you really can't become a programmer? You could probably fill in the blank there. I've been trying for a couple of years now to really study and excel at coding, but I'm not making any progress. I'll field this one a little bit to start. Please. So this is actually something I've been thinking about a lot in the past several years, because coaching people, you run into this kind of thing instantly every time. There's some sort of one I hear a lot is, I'm not a math person. I hear that all the time. So anything that involves math immediately is just like, nope, can't do it. I'm not a math person, which that doesn't have anything to do with a skill set. That's an identity that the person has chosen to give themselves, or that somebody else has given them that they've just held on to. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about that, because it's not something you can just simply make. You can't just snap your fingers and make that identity go away. There's a reason why it's there. It could have been something that someone said to you a long time ago. It could have been a class you were taking that you felt really poor at, and that kind of imprinted it on your mind that you're that way. But I'm not just trying to make a plug here, but I have been spending like the past few years developing an approach to this that involves a lot of things from that you might know from super learning. So it involves visualization, and I've been tweaking it with myself for the past few years, testing it on myself over and over and over again. And it works really well. It's really cool. It's a way to shift your identity for specific purposes. And that's actually the program that we are building right now. It's going to be released, depending on when you're watching this video, it's going to be released in the next couple months. So early 2023. So if you're watching this later than that, it's probably already out. And it's all about how to shift into the optimal identity for whatever you're trying to do. So keep an eye out for that. That'd be pretty cool. Jonathan, did you want to say anything about this question or?
I would, yeah. And that's a great answer. And that's a part of super learning that you're much better at than me, is the motivation, organization, accountability. I'm really good, as we talked about in the beginning of the show. I'm really, really good when I have that passion and enthusiasm, and all I need is just the tools to soak this stuff up faster because I have the motivation. That's the part that I'm the weakest at. So I'm really glad that you're shepherding, taking the vision and the methodology in that direction. For me, though, the tool that I use, Anjan, is just reconnecting to that why. And unfortunately, sometimes that means Dan Sullivan does this really cool tool called the impact filter, where it's like, before I want to do any project in a business, in this case, I need to write down like all the reasons I want to do it, what I'm going to get if I do it, or my team and I do it, what's going to happen if I don't do it. And he said, the reason it's a good tool is because 80% of the time you drop the project before you even start. Now, I don't think that's the case with learning. I would hope you don't drop 80% of the things that you want to learn. But sometimes it's okay to say, like, my why for wanting to be a and I'm not saying this is you, Anjan, but my why for being a programmer is I think it would be good and I'd probably make a good salary. It's like, that's not a good enough reason. You can make a great salary doing a lot of other things that you may enjoy more. But if there is a good why and you reconnect with that, and you, as Collin said, you visualize and you go deep into what is my life going to look like when I've achieved this skill, and what am I going to do with it, and what is going to benefit me, and the other things that are more motivating, because clearly from where I'm sitting, it sounds like, I want to sit down and be a good coder is not motivating you enough, but there's a reason behind the why. Joe Polish always says, from all the work that he's done in addiction recovery, it's like, if you ask why 5 times, you're going to get to the real answer. And it crudely, many marketers put like, at the end of the day, it always comes to getting laid, getting paid, or living forever. And that's a crude, as I say, it's a crude way, because when they say getting laid, they mean like, actually it's about love. It's about connection. It's about, human beings. It's about, the reason I want to be more fit is because I want to live longer, because I want to see my kids get married. I want to see my grandkids get married. Like, that's why I don't want it for 6-pack abs. That's why I'm encouraging myself to go to the gym more than I have been. So getting paid is about just, comfort, safety, security, and living forever. I guess mine was a little bit of A and C. So, and ask yourself the question, why 5 times. Why do you want to be a programmer? And then really connect with that. And if you don't get to a good enough answer, one of those 3 things, like if being a programmer is going to make your family healthier and happier because you're going to have a better quality of life, you're going to be able to relocate countries to the country you want to live with a work visa, and you're going to love your work, and your family is going to be, your kids are going to grow up happier, and that's going to enrich and fulfill your life, is a way more motivating answer than, I hear the salaries are really good for programmers. It's night and day. It's night and day. And if there's ever things that I don't want to do, like a couple of months ago, my wife and I realized, like, I should probably do a will, like a trust or a will, living trust, like put all my assets into some structure. And that's like a really just like stinky, awful, terrible process to go through. Even with the best lawyer, it's like, okay, what happens if I'm brain dead? Like, it sucks. It just sucks. It sucks to do. It sucks to sit on the contracts. It sucks to talk about this stuff. It's not fun. But then I went into that why of like, why am I doing this? Because I put it off for 2 years since Ari was born. And the why of I should have a will was not good enough to motivate me to do it. But then I went deep into the why, like, visualizing. What is it going to look like if I get hit by a bus? And in that moment, my children are grieving and my wife is grieving. And instead of getting a wonderful, nice, clean, neat check that says, hey, here's Jonathan's life insurance policy, and here are all the properties that Jonathan invested in and all the assets that he accumulated, and they're here, and this goes to each child. Don't worry about that. You be in your grief and find a way to move on with your lives. Like, that's covered. That's a super motivating thing to me. Like, that is a vision and a why that I can get behind, that I'm willing to suffer for. I'm willing to sit for hours and research and find the best lawyer, and then sit on Zoom and read that lawyer's book. And, you know, that is much more motivating than I should probably have a will. So I hope that's helpful, Anjan.
Yeah, I think you hit on something critical. If you're not motivated to do something, there's a reason. I think that's really important. You need to figure out what the reason is. Maybe it's a great reason. Like, maybe becoming a programmer or whatever you fill in the blank with there is not a good decision for you. Maybe that's just not the right path. Or maybe it is a good decision, but you haven't actually thought through why it's a good decision. And once you think through that and you figure it out, you might find the motivation is not as difficult to come by. So awesome. Well, we do have a few more minutes. If we have any last questions, I saw somebody in the Facebook group said, Dr. Brandon's silence is impressive. Brandon, I appreciate you being on video with us. I was hoping we'd have some more faces on, but it's okay. So yeah, your silence has been impressive. Good. Brandon, did you have any questions for the last couple minutes before we jump off here?
No, nothing specific. Yeah, as Jonathan was talking, here I am going through my mental checklist of, I'm going, okay, this guy fits the criteria of someone who has ADHD. Because he was kind of checking all the boxes of the DSM criteria, starting something, not finishing. So that's kind of where my mind was going, but with that being said, the whole, takeaway for me is, what, life is short, and make it as fulfilling as possible. And what that looks like, depends on, each individual, because it's subjective in nature. But make the most of the time that you have here, i.e., Jonathan mentioned, family, priorities. And I think a lot of important things for a lot of folks is creating those strict boundaries. Like, i.e., not doing anything after 5 p.m., because one decision then has this cascading effect, and covers such a broad array of other questions that already now have answers to it. I see it, in my practice as well. And I think folks have a time creating those boundaries and those limitations, because by nature, people tend to be people pleasers and they want to help everybody. And at what cost does that come to you as an individual for your own physical, emotional well-being? And I think what Jonathan was saying is creating those boundaries and those limitations will help you as an individual kind of guide, your roadmap to where it is, you want to be, and as one defines and develops what this happiness is and can look like.
I love that. You held your silence, but it was worth waiting for. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Collin, I know you have a hard stop, but we can go ahead and wrap it here. I'm really excited to hear, I don't want to take the thunder from you wrapping it, but I'm really excited to hear that you're going to be relaunching the podcast. I think that's going to be fantastic. And I'm here as a resource to you. I'm already sending you links of all the gear that you need, that I've just investigated and spent weeks researching. So I'll let you wrap it up. It's your show, man.
Awesome. Well, hey, Jonathan, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure to chat. And thank you for everyone else who joined in our little live studio audience that we had here. It's really fun. So I hope to see you all here in the future. Bye, everybody.
Take care.
SuperHuman Academy podcast is hosted by Collin Jewett and designed and edited by Army Cinco, with original music by Joshua Schunig and voiceovers by Corey Page Schunig. That's me. You can find past episodes and resources, as well as access to the ever-growing SuperHuman Academy community at superhumanacademy.com. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice.